My life is a wreck. I caught my wife cheating. I got into a car crash. And now she legally removed me as a father to my daughter as it turns out. She's not mine. I hate my soon-to-be ex-wife. I'm doing everything I can to make her life hell until that hate is gone. There isn't a soul in the world I can talk about this with. I don't know if I need advice, a pep talk or what. I use my main account for memes and other BS. But I made this throwaway because I'm going mad trying to cope. Life has pushed me to the edge and I'm struggling to find my integrity. Yet I question what actually are the righteous things to do, say and think. I guess to begin I need to explain that I'm typing this in a hospital room. Yesterday about 7:30 a.m. my wife and I were involved in a wreck. I came out with only a few cuts and bruises. My wife suffered a crushed shoulder, broken collarbone, 3 broken ribs and a collapsed lung. They expect her to fully recover, but for now they have her heavily sedated. Having to type this out on a phone is a daunting task. But at the moment I have the time to push through even if I'm not sure I have the will to do it. I wouldn't be posting in this sub if things were perfect with our marriage, obviously. I just could never imagine my wife being unfaithful in any way. My heart is broken. I feel incomplete, like part of me is missing. And saddest of all, that part is sitting a mere 3 feet away from me. So here's the full story. My wife's name is Mary. We are both 34. Mary and I have known each other since we were children. We began dating in high school and all the way through college. She is the only woman I have ever done anything of a physical nature with. Up until recently, she could say the same. We married a year after college and had our first child, Michael, a year later. 3 years after my son was born, Carrie, our daughter, began a life of me trying to spoil her rotten. I love my kids more than life itself. If not for them, I'm not sure I would be here right now. They were not involved in the wreck, thank God. They were spending the night at my parents'. We were due to fly down to Florida for a cruise yesterday afternoon. Obviously, that is all canceled. But my wife decided to go out with her best friend even though I urged her to get home and not drive around in the snow. She swore she and her best friend Rebecca were just going to have a few drinks since they wouldn't see each other for a week. I went to bed and slept like a baby until about 5 a.m. I got up and looked out the window to see my wife's car was not out front, but we'd gotten several more inches of snow. I assumed Mary and Becca got a little too drunk and crashed at her place. I threw some clothes on and got into my SUV. Before I left, I texted Mary to tell her not to drive, that the snow was too deep and I was coming to get her. It remained on unread. I cannot guess how many times I have wondered what would have happened if she'd read that text. I'd still be living a lie. I'd still have a gut feeling, but I wouldn't be in the utter misery I now find myself. I got to Becca's and pulled up in front of her condo. I looked at the message again and it still had not been read. I had actually hoped Mary would read it and be ready when I arrived, but I resigned myself to the fact I'd have to go in and wake her. The front door was unlocked, so I walked in and looked to the TV room to my right. There was nobody passed out on the sofa. Rebecca's bedroom was downstairs, and I didn't want to wake her. So, I took the stairs up to her guest room and opened the door. Then my life ended. I remember walking into the room and seeing 2 heads peeking out from the covers. I remember leaning down to pull the comforter toward me. I even remember seeing my wife laying her head on some guy's shirtless chest. The next thing I remember was Becca, Mary, and some half-naked guy I'd never seen, trying to pull me off of him. I'd probably be in jail right now if they hadn't. But I honestly don't remember a damn thing. So right or wrong, I don't really feel too bad about that. My wife, on the other hand, well, that changes from minute to minute these days. When I came to my senses, the dude said he'd get his buddy to the hospital. Mary bawled her eyes out while Rebecca and I screamed it out. I told her and my wife and I was leaving, and she had 5 minutes to be in my car or to not bother coming home. She was there in 3. Really not a good idea to be angry driving in snow, even with 4-wheel drive. But it was another vehicle that veered into our lane and forced us through a guardrail. That's what caused Mary's injuries. The car rolled, thank God for airbags. But we lived. The kids don't even know we had a wreck. I haven't called anyone. I probably should have. But this wasn't just a wreck. My life has been wrecked and I'm trying to gauge the damage before I start bringing others into the situation. I'm numb and yet I hurt like hell, and not from the wreck. I feel like I don't even know the person laying in that hospital bed. I want to ask her so many damn questions, but I really don't want to know any of the answers. She obviously no longer loves me. No one with a soul could cheat on someone they love. So, I have to ask if she ever loved me. And now that she has cheated, would I ever want her to love me again if that were possible? I don't know the specifics of when she first cheated, but in my book, the instant she did, our marriage ended. The vows were broken. She ended our marriage, and we are no longer man and wife. I don't need a divorce attorney to nullify my marriage. She's already done that. Therefore, I am no longer under obligation to the vows I gave. A huge part of me wants to just walk out of this room. I want to call her parents, tell them what she did and what happened, and then let them know she is their problem again after all these years. We said for better or for worse, and I meant it. But we are no longer married. Part of me wants to leave her a note and tell her too bad worse happened to come after she ended our relationship. The only thing that is keeping me in this damn room is my children. I want to see them so badly right now, but I have some scratches on my face and neck. They'd know something happened if they saw me. As much as I feel my wife has defiled herself and our family, my kids need her. I thought I had a life partner, and as horrible as she ended up being, my children need a mom in their life. There are going to be talks I am not qualified to have and wouldn't know where to begin. There are going to be injuries that need kisses instead of being told to walk it off. I'm a damn good father, but I can't be a mother too. Please, someone help me. How can I sit here and look over someone who has stabbed me in the back so cruelly? Should I call her parents to come? What do I tell them? I really don't want to be here, especially with her parents. If I don't tell them what she did, they are going to know I'm pissed off. What in God's name do I tell my children? Yeah, I can tell them we were in a wreck, but I'm not the kind that can fake emotion. Obviously, my wife does it with ease. But when I loathe someone, it shows in my face. They will know I am angry at their mother. How the hell did my life come to this? I already know I need to see a lawyer. I've figured that much out. But how do I handle this? It took so long to get approved that I didn't think my post had posted. I just started getting notifications. So I am sorry for not responding sooner to people that made comments trying to help. Update 1. For whatever reason, I could not respond to questions from my first post. It may have something due to this being a throwaway account, but I could reply to comments, but nobody could see the replies but me. I tried posting this update in the infidelity sub last night but had issues. Hopefully, the same glitch doesn't happen with this update, and I can give feedback for others to better assist me. My apologies to anyone that did leave a response. It was appreciated and helpful. After my initial post that day, I decided to stay one more night in that hospital room. With the Mary sedated and the lights out, I laid back in the recliner looking at the ceiling, listening to the medical machines. I laid there wondering how the hell my life had reached that point. Part of me felt like I was giving her undeserved mercy just being in the same room, yet part of me loved her. I didn't want to feel that love. I actually felt weak for having any positive feelings for her. Over and over in my mind, I kept realizing there was no fixing things back to the way they were. It was as if some natural disaster had taken the life we built and destroyed it. I cried so damn hard. I realized a huge part of my life was over. That was a moment of huge significance in my life. When the nurse came into the room to take blood the next morning, I excused myself. When Mary woke, she saw me heading out the door and called to me, but I acted like I didn't hear her. I went and got some breakfast. I haven't had much of an appetite since finding out. I tried to kill some time eating and scanning through my phone. There was a text from Becca asking where Mary was that I left unread. I decided at 7 a.m. it was late enough to knock on her parents' door. Her dad was always an early riser. I planned to talk to him first, and if he thought his wife needed to hear it, he could wake her. I saw smoke coming from the wood stove in his workshop out back, so I knocked on the door before entering. He saw the scratches on my neck and bruise on my cheek. I explained there had been an accident. Mary had gotten the worst of it, but we needed to talk. I think he assumed I meant about the accident, so he woke my mother-in-law to hear what I had to say. We sat in the kitchen as I explained how going around a curve a car in the oncoming lane veered into our lane. Having the heavier vehicle, an all-wheel drive, I managed to keep us on the road until we hit the guardrail. The passenger side door caught one of the vertical I-beams mounted in concrete. Even with side airbags, Mary hit hard. She sustained lots of injuries, but I told them she was stable and they expected a full recovery. They both cried knowing their daughter had suffered but would still be around for them to love. As soon as they insinuated they would be around to help me in any way they needed to assist me looking after Mary. That was when I stopped them and explained the wreck wasn't what I'd come to tell them. They looked confused as I explained waking up that morning and sending a text to head off in the snow to make sure my wife was okay. I told them about walking in on their daughter and some guy I'd never seen and unconsciously beating him over and over. They were both shocked. Then I told them what room she was in at the hospital, explained I always wanted them to be part of the kids' lives, so I hoped they could remain friendly with me. I told them my dad was looking after them at the moment, but I was divorcing their daughter as she had broken our vows and was no longer my wife. I was leaving their place and driving to my dad's to tell the kids about the wreck. I was also going to tell them we were splitting up and wouldn't be together anymore. I wasn't going to tell them their mother is a cheater. I told my former in-laws that while I hated things had to end the way they did, at least I could say I wasn't the one who destroyed our marriage and my life. They tried to tell me I shouldn't be so hasty. She made a mistake. and the usual lame excuses. I just smiled and told them I'd loved having them as in-laws over the years and walked out. When I got to my dad's, I of course had so much I needed to get off of my chest. I entered through the kitchen where I found my dad having a cup of coffee. The only thing he knew was that I was supposed to be on a big boat in the Caribbean. He stood and asked what I was doing there. I just grabbed him, hugged him, and cried like a child. It was the kind of thing where he really wanted to know what was going on but sensed he needed to let me cry it out before prying. He led me to the den and sat me on the couch to go get my mom. We both urged her to have a cup of coffee first. But she knew if I was there alone that early, I had something bad to tell them. I first explained about Mary cheating, me catching her and leaving Becca's. Then I explained about the wreck, that it was pretty bad. I told them about Mary's injuries and explained I'd let her parents know only an hour before so they could go see her. Both of my parents were stunned. My mom finally asked me now what I'm going to do. They both cried when I told them my only remaining option was to divorce Mary and be the best father I could for my children. As our conversation was winding down, I heard my daughter Carrie squeal "Daddy" and come running down the stairs toward me. That woke up my son, who was also downstairs with a few minutes. I hadn't seen them in so long, I just spent time hugging them, happy to see them. They took a while to notice my scratches. I told them about the wreck and that their mommy was in the hospital but going to be fine. I told them Mary's parents would eventually pick them up to take them to see their mom and left it at that. I spent a day playing, talking to, holding, napping with, and laughing with my children, and those two made me want to live again. Until that point, if I'm honest, I was like 50 over 50 about wanting to go on. But they are worth living for, protecting, and cherishing. My wife's phone was destroyed in the wreck, so nobody had gotten a response for days. Early that night, I started getting texts from my MIL's phone and knew they had to be from Mary. I ignored them. They continued sporadically off and on through the night, turned off notifications. The next day, I spoke with 3 law offices about filing for divorce. I can't say I want or even need a legal divorce, but that will divide assets and determine custody of our children. What she does with who is no longer of any concern of mine. I've met with 2 and I like the later one quite a bit. I'll meet with the 3rd-rated lawyer to see if he wows me. If not, I'm going with the 2nd firm's top divorce attorney. Either way, I will have removed 3 top legal sources from her list of candidates. And that's a win in my book. Custody is my primary focus. I'm not going for full custody, and I wouldn't want it if I could get it. They need their mother in their lives. But because she did what she did, she can never again be a part of my life. A go-between can drop the kids off on time whenever they need to be where they need to be. Not a reason in this world for me to ever say another word to her. I obviously never knew her, so why would I continue to interact with a stranger? I go back to work next week from what would have been our cruise. I didn't tell a soul at work we didn't go or anything about the wreck. And of course, they will be seeing me driving the rental car and question if I got a new car. I'm not sure if I need to explain things to HR, but I don't want my personal business to be aired out for all to see. I feel humiliated as it is without news leaking out. Divorce is a necessity sometimes, but it always represents a failure. But I'm done being an anchor for a ship that has already sunk. And for those who insisted rightly to get checked for STDs, I've had a full screening. It came back clean on everything, thank God. Even that was enough to make me feel like some trench coat pervert when I did nothing wrong. I assume by this time Mary has left the hospital. Her parents did not even attempt to bring her to the house. They couldn't have contacted me anyway due to Mary's constant texts I wasn't reading. As soon as I can get divorce papers filed and her served, I can be done with the biggest mistake of my life. Her actions invalidated all of that time. If I had to do it over again, I would now not do it again. I would choose a life with someone else, anyone else who would actually be faithful and loyal. Her greatest asset is what she intentionally threw away: the ability to be trusted. From having someone to call your own to being all alone. That's what I'll miss. But I know all of that was a lie and I meant nothing to her. People will swoon over a beautiful lie and repel an ugly truth. I'm not one of those people. A lot of people wanted the dirty details of who my wife strayed with, why and how long it had been going on. I'm sorry I don't have that information to share, but I really don't want to know. Outside of a person literally putting a gun to your head, there is no excuse to cheat. Beyond that, when you have made a life bond you have sworn to uphold and make the decision for the other person to ruin it, you are vile. I wish to God I'd never met her and had taken a chance on anyone else. She had no right to give me a life and then take it all from me against my will. The man I was before her betrayal will never exist again. The woman she was never existed, and the life I had is a facade in ruins nobody wants to live in. Update 2. Though I'm not sure where to begin, I don't want to leave anything out. I do have a sense of what I hope to convey when I'm done. It's just very hard to discuss any one aspect of my situation that doesn't branch into other parts of my life. If this sounds disjointed, forgive me, but this will be a long read. Because the life I was living has been gone long enough to the point it feels like that was all a dream I woke up from. The best analogy I can give is that Mary cast Michael, Carrie, and me in a tawdry reality show against our will and without our knowledge. The show got canceled, the facade was revealed, and we're left with the cold reality of our collective reality. Not a day goes by that I don't think about how happy I was in my old life. But now, knowing it was all a complete and utter lie built upon lies, I wouldn't want it back. The biggest news I need to share is that I am no longer legally Carrie's father. I have never been her father biologically. My name is off of her birth certificate. Officially, because Mary and I are still married, I am now Carrie's stepdad, as odd as that sounds and is to say. When the divorce is finalized, as things presently stand, I will officially be nothing to her, nor her to me. What should have taken about 2 months to do took 4 months because there was an upcoming divorce to consider. My name had to be removed from her birth certificate to properly forge ahead with the divorce. Legally, I had every right to pursue having my name removed from the birth certificate of a child that is not biologically mine. It was still left up to the ruling of a judge to adjudicate if removing my name was in the best interest of the child. DNA is legally binding to make you pay child support for 18 years. But our court systems find that of secondary importance when it comes to removing names from legal documents. I was willing and able to show the judge I will voluntarily be continuing to pay Carrie's health and supplemental insurances. Many guys in my situation couldn't do that, nor should they have to. None of it should be left up to a judge's ruling. The unjust system didn't affect me. That doesn't mean it is remotely fair. From the moment I first knew Carrie was not my daughter, I have pondered over and over in my mind how to best handle the situation. Yes, learning she isn't mine emotionally destroyed me in ways which I don't think I could verbalize. But addressing Carrie's situation with emotion would have been a recipe for disaster. Our emotions betray us because they are not based on reason and logic. Allowing my love for Carrie guide me would have been just as stupid as allowing my hate for Mary guide me. And legally, I had every right to cut all ties with Mary and Carrie, as neither one was ever mine. Morally, I could not let Carrie suffer economically because of her mother's rampant promiscuity. Ethically, I could not allow her to feel any of what her mother did was her fault in any way. At the end of the day, and after a lot of soul-searching, I came to the realization she and I were both victimized by Mary. My soon-to-be ex-wife removed my agency in regard to every aspect of our relationship when she cheated. I wasn't told she no longer loved me or never actually did. I was not allowed to know she'd been unfaithful. I wasn't informed I was no longer her one and only. I was kept from learning she conceived a baby with a stranger and had me raise that child as my own for 6 years. Carrie didn't get a say as to whether she would have chosen me as her dad. She never got a voice to tell her mother what she had done to us both was sheer evil. I wanted to give us both a voice. The day after my name was officially removed from Carrie's birth certificate, I filed petition to legally adopt her as my daughter. That had been my plan all along. Once I could be certain just seeing her wouldn't be a reminder of her mother's betrayal. I just had to know that one thing to be sure. And I couldn't know it until I saw her face to face, after learning she's not my biological daughter. If seeing her had felt like the slap in the face her mother gave me when I caught her cheating, I couldn't have done it. People are free to think I'm wrong for feeling that way. Fragile masculinity, I believe, was the term a toxic feminist used toward me when I wasn't sure how I'd react seeing Carrie again. If I had totally abandoned Mary and Carrie, which I had every legal right to do, I still wouldn't be in the wrong. And I won't pretend that keeping Michael in my life didn't influence my decisions, since Carrie is his sister and Mary is his mom. He's a good big brother and she loves him. That fact mattered in the choices I have made. But Carrie is my daughter. No, it is not to the same extent as Michael is my son, because he is blood related. But I'm her dad and I want her to remain in my life. I just felt I needed to legally set the record straight and open avenues to opportunities we never got. On the surface, it seems like pointless legal actions to get right back where I stood. My marriage was a lie. The relationship I had with Mary was a charade, most likely from day one. What I deserve is a do-over, a chance to pick a different woman to love in the hopes she might be faithful and loyal. But I can never have that. I can never know what might have been, even if anything I could have done would have been better than to marry a disloyal harlot. The kids won't learn the details of their mother's promiscuity. and betrayal for many years. But I want them, particularly Carrie, to eventually know my struggle to keep it together and protect them. I want her to understand that as much as I despise her mother, that I gave myself the option to choose or not choose her as my daughter. I chose Carrie. When the judge asks that poor innocent little girl if she wants me to be her daddy again, I want her to say yes without a thought. Only years from now will she grasp that she truly chose me to be her dad. She had options too. We were thrown together and had no say in the matter. But I'm doing everything I legally can to adopt her as my own flesh and blood, even if she's not. One day when she's an adult and realizes I gave her the chance to be free of me and she didn't take it, I want her to smile. I want her to know I didn't have to be her dad. I chose to be her dad in a way that makes our bond stronger than blood. There are a few people I'm related to I'd rather not be, but I didn't get a say in that matter. Carrie and I chose each other when we both could have bailed. She knows I love her and always will. It's been hard to function just taking one day at a time just to get through the hell that has become my life. It's draining, but I have also pondered on how I want the kids to perceive all of this years after the fact, when they are adults. When they learn of their mother's activities, how I caught her, and what I uncovered, I want them to be revolted. When Carrie understands I didn't owe one penny toward continuing to raise her but did it anyway, I want her to feel grateful. When she understands that her mom put us both in an impossible situation, but we made it through together, I want her to be happy we made it. When they both realize their stability could have been totally destroyed due to their mom, but I held it all together for the three of us, I want them to understand at least part of my sacrifice. There won't be any revisionist lies being told 10 or 20 years from now. I know their mother is a worthless, selfish, wretched excuse for a human being. One day, they will know that truth too, and I hope they both shun her from their lives for what she did. But that will be for them to determine when truth is revealed. All I can do is remove Mary from my life in every way possible and keep living. What happens to her is of no concern to me. The kids are all that matter now. Quite a few people messaged me asking how I handled Mary telling the kids we could never get back together because I could never love her again. The very next day after school, I took them both out for ice cream at a local park. Michael seemed resigned to the fact I don't love their mom but didn't like it. Carrie didn't like hearing that I don't love her mom, and me telling her that her mom doesn't really love me didn't help. There was a lot of crying and confusion on their part. I was sure to tell them without a doubt that their mom genuinely does love them, and I love them more than anything in this world. But they needed to hear the truth and face a reality none of us asked for. I told them I know they both love me and love their mom. That was really all that was important. Carrie asked me why I don't love her mother. I wanted to be as honest as I could be with her, but I didn't think there was any age-appropriate way to tell her that her mother is a batshit crazy whore. Telling her that her mom lied to me and hurt me was all I could come up with. She hugged me to try and console me. It nearly broke my heart, considering she had things to be consoled over she didn't know about yet. Michael asked me what was going to happen concerning the divorce. I told them that they would live with me and I'd look after them in their home during the week. I explained a court would figure out what weekends they would stay at their grandparents' house with their mom. I promised them their mother and I would keep our arguing between us from that point forward. I explained she and I had a long talk the night before, after they got home. Carrie said she wanted her mother to stay with us. It hurt me to tell her that was never happening ever again under any circumstances, but she had to be told. She said her mommy had said she wanted to come back and stay with us. I looked her straight in the eye and told her I have no doubt their mom would like to keep staying with us. I told them both that it was impossible for me to explain at that time, but their mother had betrayed all three of us. I said they weren't old enough to understand at that moment, but I promised one day I would tell them exactly why I felt their mom didn't deserve to live with us anymore. Carrie seemed to accept that more than Michael, oddly. He began to ask how old he had to be to know what his mom did. He didn't like it when I told him it had nothing to do with age but instead a maturity level. He said it was a cop-out. I didn't argue with him. I said I wanted them to love their mom and treat her with respect, because as far as they know she has done nothing wrong to them. They will know someday. I will leave letters to them in my will if I have to, just in case Rebecca is banging some ex-con who is willing to kill me. Barring that, I will tell them myself when they are old enough, knowing it will negatively influence their opinion of her. I have a feeling they will soon see a version of their mother that will do much of that for me. One day they will know what she did to all of us, but we stuck together and made a decent life for her three biggest victims. I'm not capable of faking it in front of them and acting like their mom means anything to me. Their mother is completely repulsive in all ways. If she died, I would not shed one tear for her vile soul as she splits hell wide open. She deserves it. I hate her for what she has done to me and the children. I hate her for what she has allowed herself to become. I hate her for the stress and tears she has brought to our extended families. She deserves no forgiveness, chances, and least of all compassion. I don't consider her injuries in the wreck karma, just pain and suffering she deserves. True karma would have figured out a way to not ruin my car and would have done a lot worse than the injuries she got. I heard through the kids their mommy was having pins removed from her shoulder the next day. I didn't tell them I hoped they used a strong electromagnet to do it, but it was hard not to. A few weeks after our talk, the kids came home from their grandparents' house with a letter via my son. It was sealed in an envelope with my name on the front. I couldn't throw it away in front of the kids, so I just placed it on the counter with the junk mail. After I got the kids to bed, I passed by the letter and decided to read it. Mary started out apologizing to me for hurting me, claimed she never meant to let things get that far, forgot who she was and wanted to be. She apologized for hurting the kids. As much as I despise her, I had to give her credit. If she'd stopped there, I might have given her a bit of respect. Then she wrote that she still loved me with all her heart, always has, and always will. I needed the laugh, I really did, because I knew she actually believed the BS she wrote. That's what made it so funny. But when I kept reading, she claimed that's why she didn't want to develop feelings for any other guy, because her heart belonged to me. I wanted to laugh. Couldn't. She couldn't give her body to others if she loved me. She couldn't have done something so hurtful if she loved me. She said giving only her body to other men allowed her to know what it was like to be young and free of responsibility and commitments, since she never got to experience that. So, since she never had any emotional bond with any of the men, her heart only and always belonged to me. In other words, her affairs were strictly physical. She meant that in a positive way that only the sickest pervert could rationalize. By essentially ghosting Mary, it shielded me from more of her lunacy. I felt I needed to do that for my own sanity. Yet I have also shielded myself from understanding the depths of her depravity in mind and body. I've thought thousands of times since D-Day that I never knew her. What she chose to write to me let me know she never knew me. She wasn't even trying to piss me off. I could tell by the way she wrote it. Her words were essentially telling me her actions were the lesser of two evils. To her, the lack of emotions toward other men saved her heart for me. That was essentially her rationale. I understand knowing your significant other is having a strictly emotional affair is soul-crushing. But no one ever got STDs from an emotional affair. No one ever punched an emotional affair partner through a cell phone or computer. And no one ever conceived a child over phone calls, emails, and text for another man to raise. I can say with 100% certainty I would have rather she'd had thousands of emotional affairs and kept anything from ever becoming physical. The fact she doesn't grasp that about me screams, I never knew you. She chose the worst of two evils in my eyes and never knew me well enough to know that. I have read many of the posts written by others here. I have yet to read that anyone so said, things never got emotional. That's essentially what she's claiming. Yet she doesn't grasp she's admitting to living the last 6 years of her life as little more than an unevolved, hedonistic, rutting pig. That's how unintelligent animals behave, unable to control their sexual urges and behavior. She understood her acts were wrong and yet felt somewhat validated for what she did in the way she did it. Until that letter, I'd had little insight into how she perceived things she did eagerly, with no conscience. The depths of depravity she not only condoned but welcomed removed every ounce of attraction I have for her. I'll forever have mind movies in my head because of her. They were bad after only catching her with that random guy. They got worse after she admitted to cheating with enough men to fully staff an aircraft carrier. But when the pie showed me the recovered text, pictures, and videos from her old phone, it broke something in my psyche. It's like I was married to Pornhub for 6 years. Anyone that finds out their significant other had a one-night stand, I sympathize with you so much. People that learn their so was having an affair with someone, my heart truly breaks for you. But I can't put into words what it's like to know the love of your life was being defiled like the sleaziest prostitute of ancient Rome and enjoying it. I cannot picture Mary in my mind now without imagining ejaculation all over her face. She disgusts me that much, and that is how debased I will view her forever. No amount of emotional bonding with someone else was ever going to make me think that horribly of her. Unworthy in an instant that she turned into a 6-year time bomb. The motion to adopt Carrie was the second or third biggest thing Mary had to worry about the day I filed paperwork. At noon, a sheriff's deputy showed up at her parents' house to serve her with the divorce papers. At 10 minutes past noon, another deputy showed up to serve her with paperwork due to the civil suit I filed against her. The calls and texts from her parents' phones went unanswered and unread. Calls to my lawyer were met with urging to get her own legal counsel to get the ball rolling. That wasn't what she wanted to hear. I'm told she screamed and yelled at several staff members that day. Nadia eventually told her that the divorce would proceed, like it or not. Any further harassment to her or her staff would be severely dealt with. I kind of wish Mary had kept pushing. Orange was never her color, but what she's done should truly be criminal. It was over a week later that a lawyer representing her phoned Nadia, and they had their first discussion. He asked if we were serious about the civil suit to try and recover expenses incurred raising a child that isn't mine. Nadia assured him we were going to try and recover every cent incurred due to paternity fraud. She negated to tell him none of it is about money. Even if I win, the odds are high I will see little or none of what any court awards. But if I win, it will be money coming out of any and every paycheck going to me until paid in full. It would be a costly reminder and punishment for what she's done. And even if I lose, she has to pay a lawyer to represent her, and that's more expenses she can't afford. He said he understood the vast majority of assets, including the family home, were mine long before we married. But he urged that we couldn't honestly expect to get custody of both kids, have her pay child support, and for her to live with no spousal support after a severe accident. Nadia told him his client had been unfaithful in the marriage long before the wreck and that she picked a bad time to get caught. She informed him our goal was to make it as painful for Mary as possible. Her car was the only item of any value in her name, which was in her possession, and she could keep it. Mary was allowed to keep her retirement savings as her own because my portfolio dwarfed hers. She wouldn't have even had that 401 Kelvin without my urging. She put in the maximum allowed each pay period. She never had to contribute to any utilities. Buying her own car and paying her own insurance was her only expense. The rest of her money was her own. Now she gets to live on it. I know she's already feeling the financial pinch, and it's just going to get worse for her. If I win the civil suit, Starbucks sales will plummet. But it has to be done. I just don't think she ever expected I'd go to the lengths I am. As far as cars go, I drove her car around for a few months after my car was wrecked. Being the only thing of value that she owned, adding mileage to the car was satisfying even if it was petty. But I bought a beautiful new SUV and got my buddy to follow me in it as I drove Mary's car to her parents. I left the key in the mailbox with no idea when she'd be able to drive again. Given her past, I was sure she'd be on the hunt for strange D as soon as she was able. I hoped living with her mom and dad was making her feel young and free of responsibility. However, having random men come sleep over at her parents' house is just tacky. She would eventually need someplace classy to offer her genitals to strangers, like a 2020 Acura. I thought about donating her car to the local community college criminal justice department. Those candidates would be experts on the use of luminol by the time they became actual police. As warped as it sounds, the most satisfying thing about dropping that car off was the spare tire. It doesn't have one, never did. That was a major point I gave her when she asked my opinion about purchasing the car. I remember her saying all sweet and cute she had me to call if she ever got a flat. It was all I could do not to leave a note under the trunk mat saying something like, "Bet you wish you had a spare now." But I'm sure eventually she'll get the message all on her own. A few days after the lawyers spoke on the phone, they met in person to discuss things. Her side wanted a meeting to discuss Carrie's situation. Even if I didn't want to, I didn't want her putting up walls to prevent me from adopting Carrie. I agreed for our daughter's sake, and we met them at Nadia's firm. I was seated in the main conference room when Nadia walked in with opposing counsel and Mary. I had never truly understood what people meant when they said someone looked rode hard and put away wet until that moment. She looked horrible. For quite a few minutes I thought my eyes were just deceiving me with some sort of blood rage hatred hallucination toward her. It wasn't until Nadia gave me a side-eye glance due to my ex's appearance that I finally knew I wasn't tripping. She'd lost weight to the point that the sides of her face were ever so slightly concave. She'd never been fat and shed the baby weight both times with ease. She looked like she had an appointment to get her mug shot taken in Florida. She'd cut her hair. It wasn't quite a Karen cut, but it was Karen-esque. And it looked like it hadn't been washed since the wreck. I'm not sure what she could have worn that would have been flattering, but I swear I made sure she got all her clothes back. So, nobody could blame me for that ensemble. The two lawyers discussed some things back and forth to start the meeting. I could feel Mary's eyes on me, but I didn't want to look in that direction. I wanted to convey hatred and scorn if I looked at her. When I finally glanced her way, I wondered where the beautiful girl I once knew had gone. Bullet dodged. From beautiful to bag lady in 6 months. Now I'm just somebody that she used to blow. Thankfully, we began discussing Carrie, to take my mind off of how rough she looked. They asked if there had been any attempt to find Carrie's biological father yet. I told them nothing pertaining to that was going to take place until the divorce and custody issues are totally finalized. I then asked if she'd remembered any names that might lead us to baby daddy number 2. I felt trashy just saying it, and she didn't like hearing it, but truth is truth. She said no names from that time in her life came to mind. I asked if she had any plans to block me from legally adopting Carrie. She insisted she wished I never had my name removed in the first place. She certainly wasn't going to try and keep me from putting it back. That was all I needed to know. Have a nice day. Drive safely. No. Before I could stand up to try and urge the meeting to end, Mary asked me, could you have forgiven me and taken me back as your wife after my first mistake if I confessed to it and swore on my life to never stray again? She got me. It's a question I knew she had asked herself over and over since the first night she strayed. It's a question she knew the answer to, and so did I, and that was the sticking point. Just asking the question was her way of making a statement. She knew giving her body to anyone else in my eyes was an act that would cause me to remove her from my life as instantly and permanently as possible. We had discussed many times how we would both treat being cheated on. I'd told her if I ever found out she cheated, I wouldn't listen to another word she ever said. The time to talk was before infidelity. Everything after is just noise, excuses, and hot air. After several minutes of silence, I reluctantly told her she already knew I would not have given her a second chance. Then I asked her if I'd had an affair baby with a random hookup and brought it home 6 years later, if she'd look after it. It got ugly from there. She said I was doing everything in my power to hurt her now. I didn't deny it. She said I'm not her parents and that I don't get to punish her for being bad in reference to the civil suit. I made sure she understood the divorce was to punish her. The civil suit was hopefully literal payback I was owed. She said I'd destroy the kids' lives to destroy her. I told her she looked like she'd been smoking meth. But after that accusation, I had proof. She started to cry and tell me she loves me. I just rolled my eyes, because her tears now garner no sympathy from me and only make me want to treat her even crueler. I promised her the kids would always be well fed and well dressed, but made sure she understood I didn't care if she starved or had to wear sackcloth. At one point in my life, I would have done anything and given anything to make her happy. I asked her if my all wasn't good enough for her to be faithful, what more I could have done for her to not betray me. She said she betrayed herself. I yelled that she betrayed Carrie. I told her she betrayed everyone in her life. The lawyers calmed things down, and Nadia shared a proposed temporary visitation agreement with them. Knowing which weeks she will have them will allow her to schedule doctor appointments better. I warned her that while it is none of my business what she does, nor do I care, not to have any strange men around the kids. She said she hadn't been with anyone. She didn't like me pointing out she'd told me that once or twice before. But she promised if that time came, she would shield the kids from all of it. I asked her if anyone other than Rebecca knew she had been unfaithful to me. She said she admitted only the kissing to her sister after the first incident. Her sister freaked and cursed her the hell out for 5 straight minutes. Mary knew she could never tell her sister how far she actually went. But no one but Rebecca knew about all the hookups. She asked if there was any chance of us getting counseling to see if things could work out between us. I asked her why I would want a marriage with a dead bedroom. She pointed out we never had a dead bedroom. I explained it was sure as hell dead now because I'd never touch her nasty ass again with a body count higher than COVID. Mary asked if I hate her. I'm not sure if that was a yes or no question. But with every fiber of my being will have to suffice. So there's that. And that's essentially where we are. Just waiting for the divorce case to go before a judge. The civil case can't even go on a docket list until the divorce trial ends. The kids are doing well, given the circumstances. They get to see both sets of grandparents more. If there is any positive in this mess, there is that. And yes, I know I have to let go of the hate. I am seeing a therapist, but it took me quite a while to find one I like. Even she acknowledges I have a lot of legitimate reasons to hate Mary. I'm not the kind to seek validation, but knowing my hate isn't irrational helps quite a bit. I know it isn't good for me. My new therapist is helping me vent and try to let go. I'm not very good at meditation, but it's new to me. My first therapist was okay for about 4 sessions. The first session is always essentially introductions, no matter how much you share on the paperwork. She seemed very positive at first. Sympathetic yet encouraging. She assured me I was doing better than most at being a good dad, which was nice to hear. But when we started talking about issues in the past before the cheating started, her tone changed. It's not a direct quote, but she kind of insinuated that sometimes we do things that hurt or irritate our partner, but they say nothing. If those issues fester for weeks, months, or years, it's like a powder keg that we helped create. No, she didn't have a Belgian accent, but I do have enough pride and common sense to know that despite any and all my faults and mistakes, no part of me deserved what Mary did. Nothing I had ever done to her made even 1% of what she did to me righteous actions. So, I got a new shrink. I tried a few therapy sessions with a guy. He could understand the feelings of emasculation and mind movies. He could grasp how it's all overwhelming. I just didn't feel comfortable with him. Thank God I'm pretty much all cried out. But if I have to talk about some emotional shit, I don't want to cry in front of a guy. Guys are for drinking, playing sports with, and fighting. We don't discuss why Gary's wife is emotionally unavailable to him and doesn't understand his love language. This guy doesn't anyway. Part of me wanted to give him more of a chance, but I didn't see us developing any rapport. If it makes me sexist, so be it. I just feel more comfortable in confiding in a woman. That's my preference, and I finally got a good shrink. She was the only daughter in her family with 3 brothers, which takes care of having some understanding of men. Her specialty is coping with infidelity and grief counseling. When I told her about the events that led me there, she used half of a box of tissues. She said she's amazed I'm doing as well as I am. Still not sure if that was meant as encouragement or genuine shock I'm not institutionalized. I'll call my therapist Sarah for the purpose of this post, but she's helped me quite a bit just by listening. She says I am difficult to read and that my outward appearance doesn't match my friendly personality. She noted that I use humor to diffuse tense situations and disarm people. I told her it ruins the fun if she calls me out on my BS beforehand. But she is figuring me out. She says I have to figure me out now. She was adamant she was there to help. But rebuilding my life and myself, it's going to take effort by me. I can't just pay someone else to do the work for me. I'm going to have to take stock and see how genuinely damaged I am, repair what I can, amputate what I can't. It's going to hurt, even more than I've already hurt. But I have to come to peace with all I've lost because it's not coming back. The kids see their own shrink, 40 minutes with each and then 40 minutes with the 3 of us, twice a week. They've been doing great. The therapy is allowing them to come to terms with the inevitable. I was a little concerned how family therapy was going to go due to how I feel about their mom. I've been silent in sessions when they have expressed missing their mom or wishing we were all still together. I thought about showing them on the doll where Mary hurt me, but dolls don't have a soul. Sometimes I don't feel like I have one anymore either. I have gone out of my way to try to be sociable and lean on friends. But given what I have ahead of me, small talk feels too trivial. I know friends are tired of me venting. I would be. I've tried to not go on a rant, but the betrayal still eats at me. It's still always at the back of my mind. Then of course if we go out for drinks, they are pointing out this girl or that girl. Like I know they are conventionally pretty, but I have no interest in getting to know them. And unlike my wife, the hygiene issues alone would prevent me from doing any hookup activity even if given the chance. Rest assured, none of these young ladies has left any of the establishments suicidal because they couldn't bed me. The lack of interest was totally mutual, nobody loses. But this hasn't just affected the way I look at women, it's changed the way I've looked at people. I feel like I'm second-guessing everyone's identity and sincerity. Before all of this, Mary was someone I truly admired. It makes me question the other people in my life, both male and female, that I've admired over the years. She hasn't made me a misogynist, she turned me into a misanthropist. Despite any shame or guilt she feels for what she's done, I know carnal activity again with the next guy will be easy for her. She'll start eating better, gain some weight, and guys will be hitting her up in no time. My point is she'll move on sexually with ease. I can't do that. I won't do that. I already feel filthy inside and out knowing all the sperm, ball sweat, spit, and stink from other men she subjected me to. I feel she's defiled me because I've been with her. I feel tainted. She didn't just kill any desire for her, she's killed any desire I have for sex at all. As odd as it sounds, Mary was it for me. She was beautiful, I didn't have a need to look at other women. And I thought what we had was special. Beauty just doesn't even register with me anymore. My mind knows better, but my subconscious thinks all women are like Mary and Rebecca. And that's my struggle, fair or not. I had someone send me a very supportive message of encouragement. Then they said they almost envied me as a soon-to-be single guy who is financially secure. He said I'd have no problems meeting women and would be perceived as high value. I thanked him for the support without conveying something that he would look forward to, would be a source of anxiety for me. I know people hook up left and right, all day, every day, and everywhere. That is between them and the people they hook up with. Not my thing, but more power to them. I wouldn't want a stranger, even a very attractive stranger, touching me. I'm a personal space kind of person. I cannot fathom meeting a stranger at a bar or on an app and interacting with them very little before getting physical. Knowing humans often then agree to go off somewhere, remove their clothes and have sex and see no issue with it amazes me. Obviously, in a world with Tinder and dating sites, my stance is the oddity. I'd be contemplating how long it had been since they'd done the very same thing with someone else. The vast majority of people are accepting of the hookup lifestyle. Mary's hookup numbers wouldn't be all that abnormal for the typical single woman these days. And I think most guys would behave that way if they could. I couldn't and wouldn't, plus, obviously never wanted to be with someone who ever has. Part of me feels Mary wasn't forthcoming about her infidelity, just to spite me for what she knew would be my stance. When I said it felt like she was making a statement, that's the statement it felt like she was making. If I wouldn't even consider a second chance, she was going to do exactly what would hurt and disgust me most. The shit test to end all shit tests, then getting revenge on me without me ever knowing I was being tested. Once the bond we had was broken, we could never have that again with each other or anyone else. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because we are each only granted one life. The continued cheating was what has killed me. If she'd just admitted to what she'd done and we divorced, I just might have been able to pick up the pieces and eventually give someone else a chance. It's like she wanted to destroy me so there would be no way in hell I'd ever want to be with anyone again just because she couldn't have me back. Diabolical. And I don't care how many showers were taken and condoms were used, some foreign DNA made its way back to me. Disgusting. I hope her genitals rot out. When Mary and I had only had sex with each other, every action was a pure and beautiful act. Her first act of infidelity destroyed all that had been or ever could be in an instant. Anyone outside a relationship physically engaging with either partner defiles and poisons the relationship forever in a nanosecond. It's like the relationship is a tall glass of cold milk. The second her lips touched the lips of another man, that was like placing one drop of India ink into the milk. It's just one drop, it's still mostly milk. Pay no attention to the rapid discoloration, it probably tastes the same, just go with it right. But instead of telling me about the one drop of ink, she let me drink the milk. Not only did she keep letting me drink the Inkai milk, she kept adding ink. Some people are like a glass of milk with one drop of ink. Mary is now a glass of ink with one drop of milk. She's a defiled slut of no value as anything but a prostitute or a fluffer. The night she was conceived, I wish someone had run up and kicked her dad's testicles so hard they hit his spleen just so he couldn't reproduce again. The world would be a better place. The things most people get a rush from pertaining to new relationships cause me massive anxiety. I remember getting butterflies with Mary. The feeling made me nauseous. I even had to get used to someone as pretty as Mary whom I liked invading my personal space. It's not a self-esteem thing. She and I were both outgoing around each other but introverted by nature. Figuring out how to really kiss, feeling that closeness for the first time, I had to ease into it. Everyone thinks all teens are hormonal horn dogs, but she and I actually weren't. We very slowly progressed things physically as we learned and grew more comfortable. I was taught that was the way it was supposed to be. That's what I wanted. That's what she swore to me she wanted as well. The thought of trying to be intimate with someone new makes me cringe. But of course, now the thought of Mary is like the antidote to Viagra. It's all too much. I find myself ashamed more every day to be part of the human species. My life wasn't supposed to go this way. We had so many beautiful moments awaiting us as a family, but memories are destroyed, and those moments will never be. At the end of the day, I loved Carrie, but I had to let her go because our relationship was forced upon us from day one against our will. By adopting her, I'm telling her if given the chance, because I have given myself the chance, I'll choose her as my daughter all over again. When the judge asks her if she wants me to adopt her, it will be her with all that love for me returning. Full circle. Things are set right, or as right as they can be. I can never be her father. That title belongs to some guy walking around not knowing he has a 6-year-old daughter. But I'm the only dad she will ever know. Protector and provider, long after any legal obligation would have lasted. I've done what I had to do to keep my sanity even when others questioned my actions or accused me of being cruel. I've done what I thought was needed to allow Mary's two biggest victims to stake their claim to what was never truly theirs. I've made mistakes how I have handled things. I won't know they were mistakes until much further down the road. But I've done my best. I will try to do another update when I can once more issues are finalized. I apologize for the lapse between updates and the length. I will try to do better on both as I and the kids press forward together. Peace and thanks to all. Now let's see what the community has to say. Opinion number 1 says, first of all, take a breather. Yes, you should call her parents and ask them to take care of her because you are mentally and physically in no condition to help her, even if you would want to. Also tell them what she did. Don't start to lie for your wife. She has lied enough and these lies need to end right now. You need someone to talk to and to let your emotions out. So look for a good friend or a family member that you trust and talk to them. Don't make any life-altering decisions right now while your emotions are so raw. What you need now is distance to your wife and time to process and understand what she did there. This was not a one-time thing or something that happened out of a moment. This was long planned and probably her long-term affair partner, maybe not even her first affair partner. If she has stayed before at Becca's place, then you better expect to know now why she stayed there. Please stay away from alcohol and drugs, they won't help you. Your marriage is over and the woman you thought she was never existed in the first place. That was only the idea you had of her. Now you know who she is and what she is capable of, and sooner or later you need to ask yourself the question, if you would ask this woman to be your wife as well, or if that kind of woman is not a woman you would want by your side. In the end, she never wanted to come clean, never wanted to end this and keep on to make decisions for her affairs and against you. She got supported in that by her best friend, but in the end this all only happened because she wanted this to happen. Good luck and stay strong. And please get tested for STDs, better safe than sorry. Opinion number 2 says, call parents, let them know everything including the cheating. Don't hide the cheater's cessor. Tell everyone. She will twist it, make it seem it wasn't what it was. Tell the kids what is going on as well. Don't lie to your children, they aren't stupid and don't like being treated that way. Don't badmouth her to kids. Just tell the truth why you're divorcing her, she cheated. I hope you stand your ground after all the fake tears, the I'm sorries, excuses, blame shifting come rolling in. She chose to end your marriage the day she stepped out of the marriage and spread her legs for a man not her husband. Remember that you could have been the perfect husband and she still would have cheated on you. You deserve better than what she has offered you. Find someone who is worthy of your love, she doesn't. Opinion number 3 says, the auto accident and the cheating are 2 separate things. You got her to the hospital. She is in good hands. She can make arrangements for her rehab. She gutted you. You don't owe her your life anymore. I think the same way. When she lied to me and spread her legs for another man, the marriage is over. Morally, ethically, emotionally, spiritually, over. All that remains is the legal aspect, which represents the state's interest in an orderly division of assets and the care and protection of any children. When the judge drops his gavel on the divorce, that legal aspect will be nullified and the divorce agreement set in place. End of story. Serve her divorce papers while she is in the hospital. Definitely tell both sets of parents all the facts. Tell your children in an age-appropriate way the truth. Mommy decided to have another boyfriend besides daddy, and that ended the marriage. It was Mama's choice. You have to put yourself and your children first now. You need to heal from the damage she inflicted on you, and you need to find hope, happiness, and healing for yourself so you can be the dad you need to be. She felt like she deserved and was entitled to betray you with infidelity. She was not. But you fully deserve to move on from this broken sham of a marriage. How about you guys? What do you think? Leave a comment and let's discuss down below. If you enjoyed it, maybe subscribe and leave a like. It will help my channel a lot and motivate me to make more for you. Thanks for listening and take care.